The Syracuse Nationals car show in town this weekend for the 23rd year. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy. You're watching the news at 10. Organizers expect more than 8,000 different cars showcased at the fairgrounds, along with hundreds of vendors and entertainment, thousands of people just looking on. Our Morgan Scott is live at the fairgrounds tonight with what to expect and what fans in the community are excited about. Morgan.
Matt, the festivities for this year's Syracuse Nationals will kick off this Friday. And so far, thousands of car lovers have already made their way in the area in anticipation of what's to come. In just a few days, the entire state fairgrounds will be filled with more than 8,000 different cars, hundreds of vendors, and not to mention special celebrity guests.
We just can't wait for people to come out. It's a heritage event. People love it. They come every single year. And what we can tell by all the vendors and the campers that we've met already is the Syracuse Nationals is basically like a big family reunion.
It's one of the biggest events in central New York, bringing in thousands of people from near and far every year. The CEO of Visit Syracuse says he expects this to be a great economic boost for the county.
They come from Canada, Mexico, so it's a real difference maker in this local community. I think it's built quite an incredible reputation. The economic impact locally is well north of $10 million. So it's an event that has rebounded nicely out of COVID and just continues to grow each year.
Dave Tucci, owner of Tucci Hot Rods, says he's been participating in the Nationals since it began. This year, his company is bringing at least 10 different custom cars to showcase.
It's mostly the people. We have the greatest people. This industry is the greatest industry in the world. We've been in business for 26 years in building custom cars. We've been with Syracuse Nationals since the beginning, and we wouldn't want to be any other place.
Tucci says the Nationals is a great time for everyone, including those who may not know all there is about cars. Now, Syracuse police are already recommending those drivers not participating to avoid the areas of Hiawatha Boulevard and Solar Street and to find alternative routes when possible.
New at 11, the Village of Manlius is finally getting some answers from the state DEC on the future of the SWAN program. The adult female, Faye, was killed and eaten weeks ago. And it's not clear tonight if anyone is truly happy with the options moving forward. CBS 5's Morgan Scott is in the studio with new perspective right now. Morgan.
Michael, the DEC says the village's tradition of breeding mute swans will soon come to an end, and that's something many neighbors weren't happy with. Manlius neighbors say the swan pond is a huge part of the village's identity and culture, which is why many of them were devastated after the Memorial Day incident that left Faye the swan dead and her babies stolen from the pond.
When I started Swan Patrol, I had lost my husband, so that was like a big part of me being with Manny and Faye. They helped me get through that. Everybody, come to the pond to see these babies being born, going into the water, just being there for them.
Now, the Department of Environmental Conservation says it doesn't want the village to breed any more mute swans, and they prefer the Village of Manlius apply to have the native trumpeter swan instead.
We understand that swans are important to the community. There's a lot of native species and native swans that are valuable too, that people really enjoy and cherish just as much, and that don't do the same ecological damage that invasive species do on the landscape.
Stiller tells me New York State is trying to reduce the population of mute swans, and the Village of Manlius is currently the only place in the state permitted to have adult mute swans. Neighbors, on the other hand, say they feel they are now being punished for the actions of those who killed Faye.
It seems like the people that should be punished for what happened are not being punished, and the Village of Manlius is being punished. Because you're making us change what we have done for over 100 years. And what you have agreed to.
How dare you? You don't have a right to say Manny can't have a mate or those babies can't come back here. This is their home.
The good news for now, the DEC says the village can return the current cygnets to the village swan pond, but not breed any more mute swans going forward. Now, the biologists currently caring for Manny and the cygnets say he will return the babies to the pond later this week. The village board says they still want to have mute swans, but will now have to rethink their options.
$1,000 grant for a deserving charity working to make things better here. Tonight, $2,000 from Upstate Shredding and Adam and Clover Weitzman to an agency looking out for those who may be invisible to many.
The signs are everywhere. Sometimes you just have to take a second look.
The Department of Homeland Security's Blue campaign is trying to get more of us to notice what human trafficking looks like. It's a crime Christine Carpenter, the founder of Rahab Refuge Ministries, says she's called on by God to help stop.
God gave me compassion to do it.
Do we have a human trafficking problem here in central New York?
Absolutely. There was just recently one in Frankfurt. They arrested 2 individuals for trafficking. And actually, if you start doing your research, you'll find articles all over New York State. And New York State is ranked 4th in the nation for trafficking cases.
Rahab Refuge Ministries will minister to victims of exploitation and sex trafficking with a residential program to put victims on the path to re-entering society.
Just got to the left lane.
And so many people need help. Recently, a dozen undocumented migrants were discovered in Texas after a chase involving a big rig. The driver wouldn't stop. He was eventually charged with human smuggling. It's estimated the 11,500 human trafficking cases reported in the year 2019 was only 1% of the actual total. Christine Carpenter takes her message to churches and anywhere people will listen.
If I'm on the street, if I'm out to dinner, what am I to look for? How am I supposed to know that what's happening 2 tables over, that's just not right?
Well, you can look for a girl that maybe looks a little disheveled. You know, she won't have eye contact with you. There'll be a gentleman, usually a gentleman. Sometimes you would have an older woman, but statistically, it's a gentleman, an older guy. And he'll pretty much be directing her in every aspect. And she usually will not talk to you unless she's not near him. Those are some of the signs to kind of watch out for.
Tonight, $2,000 from Upstate Shredding and Adam and Clover Weitzman to Rahab Refuge Ministries. The grant money will go to the agency's House of Hope program to create a place where adult women and children who've been exploited can be healed. You'll learn more at rahabrefugeministries.org.